Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed faculty members, and aspiring researchers. Welcome back to day two of our faculty development program on research writing and research design. This is organized by the English Department of Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust, India. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the organizers, the facilitators, and participants who have made this faculty development program possible. So today we are very excited to introduce our first speaker, Professor Nada Retkovic from Croatia. Ma'am is an assistant professor on Faculty of Economics, Business and Tourism at the University Split, Croatia. She is a professor at VET High School in Croatia. She is also the co-founder of IIU Euro. Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert and Minecraft Global Mentor. She is also a certified accountant and certified ISO internal auditor. Social activist on global and national level. She has organized numerous humanitarian and volunteer actions all around the world. Today, ma'am will enlighten us on the main rules of writing and designing a research. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings from Croatia. First, I want to thanks to Dr. Sharija Vasudeva for this opportunity, for the invitation, and Dr. Regin for this amazing training development program organized by, as you say, the English department. I want to share my screen now. So let us start. Are my slides moving now? Am I moving my slides now?
Yes, ma'am. Now you are in third slide.
Yes, so let me try to start. Okay, I will start. Now I see they are moving. Okay, let me try then. So before we start, we need to know some things. What is research? So what our famous quotes are. When we have this curiosity, when we want to turn on this, if we want to have some matters, then we are calling that research. So for everything in our life, we need to plan. That is the same thing with the research projects. We first need to plan. After planning, we will do, and then we will make a review. So that is our exercise. That is our exercise, what we are practicing every day. And we need to have all the skills. We need to have all the skills, hard skills and soft skills. So let us start first from this. What is the rudiment of research? What we need to do? What we need to learn first? First thing, as I said, we need to plan, to do, and review. Having a research plan, we need to have this document. It is a frame for everything what we are doing. Like example, when we are making brainstorming, when we are getting an idea, we need to have a notice. We need to have a notice and write all. And this is a concept paper. This is a concept paper for us, and it is uncompleted till we don't finish our research. So we are supporting our plan. Coming to the methods and methodology, we need to have the purpose, we need to have the aim, we need to know the steps. But for us, we need to know what method and what methodology will we use doing the research. So method is not same like a methodology, because so many are making this in the same. Method is always a way. It is a way of our acting, a way of our doing, if we want to, and if we want to define a regular plan. Methodology, that is always a study. That is always a study, giving us these things, giving us a body. We need to always have a body for the methods what we are choosing in our study, and giving us a direction. Because if we don't have a direction, we will not continue and we will not make our research. Literature review. We have literature review, critical evaluation, and synthesis. What is that? By the definition by Newbery, critical evaluation and synthesis is a ability. It is ability to handle something, handle our work, handle our sources. When we are evaluating, when we want to publish our work, that is something what we need to bring in the progress. And always we need to have a knowledge. We need to have a knowledge. We need to have the literature. And we are contacting the literature. So what literature reviews are done and what are the reasons for this? Like example, for our students, the academic degree, the application, we can have a grant application. In European Union, we have so many grants and we are continually applying for the grants. And we are traveling a lot, because if my students and me cannot learn something in Croatia, we are trying to find a country in Europe where we will learn. So if there is a study what we want to make in Portugal, like example, and if we cannot do it in Croatia, we are applying for the grants for the European Union, and we have this Erasmus Plus mobilities, and then we are going to make our study. Our students on the last year of studying, they almost all go to some countries, to another countries. They finish their last year abroad, because they want to continue with researching their field of interest in their study. So making questions, making formulas, making the reasons, making the purposes, making the writing, learning, planning, and funding, all these things. That are so many reasons for this literature review. And we have a library. We have open libraries, especially today on the online. We have so many libraries. We have so many. We can contact Google Scholar, Scope, anything to get the information, because we know that there are very few situations that we can make some kind of research that somebody already don't do that. But we can continue with new methods, with new design, with new methodology. So that is the purpose of making the researchers. So we need to have motivated, inspired students. We need to be an inspiration and motivation for them, and we need to be critical thinkers, because we don't know all, but we need to invest in ourselves. Like our students, what they are learning every day, we also need to learn every day, because today what we learn, tomorrow is already something what is, I can say, the train goes and you cannot catch that train if you don't do it continually, and if you are not a lifelong learner. Making communication is very important between us researchers, educators. And here in this research framework, communications need to give us structure. So how to communicate with our design, with our visual materials. We know today that we need to show our ideas, and we have so many digital tools, the visualization, the infographics. So we need to use something new, something what will inspire, something what will, I can say, one photo, one picture, say more than 1,000 words. So we can do that. And if we want to write something, we can also start our abstract, but after doing the research and making the conclusion, who knows what we will get like results will we have a contribution? So if we don't have a contribution with our work, then we didn't communicate on the normal way. So this is one type of showing a format of a research proposal. Almost all us researchers, educators are reviewers. We know very well what it means to make a review to somebody's research. So what we are looking, what we have frameworks, we have so many questions through we are going till we say the work will be accepted, or work will be accepted with a minor corrections. So every work, this is a framework, this is one type of the design. When we are giving the title, what kind of title, how many letters the title need to have, and that is a background, that is a timeline for us. Then title always need to be unique. If it is not unique, we will not accept that. So providing the evidence, using questions, proposed methods, doing these methods, working plan and schedule. So what is that working plan and schedule? I will repeat, the working plan is very important. We cannot start today and then not work 2, 3, 4, 5 months. We need to work continually. And we know what is our biggest problem. Our biggest problem are fresh data. We always get data, I can say, late. Our data. So all this OECD, Eurostat, Statista, everything, everywhere, World Economic Forum. We are waiting to get the fresh data, especially if we are doing a quantitative research. But if we are doing a qualitative research, then it is easy. Then it is easy for us because we can contact. We don't need math. We don't need some types of this. We will use another methods like surveys, questionnaires, or something like that, and contact the different literature. So I honestly don't like the qualitative research. For me, they are boring. I like numbers. I like using different tools. I like the math. I like something I can say that I see, I feel, and numbers for me are very important. And also make a mix of quantitative and qualitative research, like example through a case study. That is also good. So this is like a ABCD. We see ABCD. How long should a research proposal be? So background, the introduction, so 1 to 2 pages. Then the literature review, 5 to 20 pages. Methodology, 5 to 10 pages. Research strategy, conclusion pages, and optional structure. This is what we all need to have in our head, and this is a visualization. This is an infographic, and we can really have this in our head. And always think about this. Do we have all of this? Do we make properly the questions? Do we find this unique title? Do we choose the correct research method? So let us use the visualization, and I will say this is a type of thinking. This is thinking. Today, I'm always telling to my students, we don't need theory without practice. We move from that type of learning. So we always, if we have the aims, if we define our aims, we know that our aims need to be smart. They need to be specific. They need to be measurable. If something is not measurable today, they don't have a sense, because the education is rapidly changing, like technology. That is the same way with our curricula, with everything what we are doing. So we need always the methods, the tools, and the techniques, and that is changing today. Starting from this, we have research, and we always need to know that this is for me the best definition. When we say describe, explain, predict, and control. And this is a phenomena. If we can describe something, explain. We don't need today numbers without explanation. The number don't means for us nothing. If we are starting something, we need to describe that, because a person who is not coming from that field, from your description, because sometimes reviewers are not from your field, but if you describe it on the right way, if you make the explanations also, we don't need to be an expert in that field, but we can see and conclude, is this something going good? Predictions. That is great. Today we have so many softwares that we can make the predictions. So like example, what will happen for 5 years? We can do that. I can say through Microsoft Excel and through other programs, we can make the predictions. And yes, we can control this phenomena. So choosing the method, will we choose inductive or deductive? So it depends about the thing. Will we analyze something, or we will observe something to do some kind of event? And inductive always are associated with qualitative research, and deductive methods are always with the quantitative analysis. So this is very easy to remember. So if we are talking about a qualitative research, what are the main characteristics? We have these characteristics. So what we need to follow? We need to follow our data. We need to take care about the ethics and the code of conduct. Today, intellectual property rights, IPR, copyright. So can we do this? Can we make the complete copy, and don't say the source from where we took the material, the source, because that is, I can say that is already a cyber crime. Analyzing, using this data, this knowledge, making the deep analysis, using having and improving the analytical skills, analytical uses, so creating and generating whole time new questions. So research is giving us a lot of opportunities to make a distinguish. We know that we can make a descriptive, explanatory, and exploratory research. So how we will conduct that, and what is the approach? So approach can be unstructured, structured, or highly structured. If we are making this explanatory, our approach needs to be highly structured, and we always need to use there the hypothesis. If we are doing some type of descriptive research, you know what I say, any research what we are starting, we first need to make this descriptive research, because that is like a blood test. So how can we conduct our data? Do we choose the correct variables? So maybe if there is not a correlation, we can check first, is there a correlation? What type of correlation? The mean, the average, the standard deviation, the VARP, the variance. So that is important when we are starting. So because I say so many times we think we are on the right way, and then we don't have good data, we don't choose the good variables. So this is the approach what we are using, and taking the timing. What is the timing here? It can be the early stage, later stage, and when we are making decision making, then we are talking about the later stages. So let us remember this, like I said, that the aims need to be smart. Also, our research needs to be always valid, accurate, reliable, timely, and complete. Valid, it means rigorous, logical, and founded. Accurate, that we don't need to have these errors. Reliable, if somebody who is doing this in the same way, it is normal, we can produce the similar results because we are using the same results. I cannot say that 2022 the inflation is 15%, and after that I say it is 10%. We are choosing the same databases, we are getting the same results, and also we are coming to this similar results. Timely in the time frame and complete. Never get up, always try to come to the end of your research. So moving through qualitative and quantitative, we have so many tips for conduct our research. Our research first needs a good analyze, we call that analyze a SWOT analyze. We need to know our strengths. We need to know the weaknesses, and we need to know the opportunities and threats. So keeping track with this, identifying all these problems, all these opportunities, preparing something, doing the conclusion, trying to find a right strategy. So strategy is very important. Looking for the information and planning. So types for conducting research, we can say shortly. This is that: plan, do, review. Find that, find this, and never stop. Never stop. Come to the end. And always make notices, always do the interpretation, always analyze, because today you make something and then I always have behind myself papers and diaries all around me, because I have also here one notice: Nada, you need to check again this data, because you need to it is important, because maybe today you are tired and you don't see this, you cannot make it, you cannot come to them, but tomorrow you will have the energy, and tomorrow you will continue doing your study, and you will make your conclusions, you will give your recommendations, and you will prepare all this. So always review your goals. Have the goals before you are starting. Have the goals before you are completing. Ask yourself, can you do it alone? If you cannot do it alone, we see today so many printed books, and you see there are almost 4 authors, because we are not for all. Somebody will make a design, somebody will do the design, somebody will choose the qualitative, the part with the numbers. Somebody is better in the English, and has better grammar. So we need a team doing, especially when we are doing something today in the field of machine learning, in the field of artificial intelligence. So we need to here be in this field really expert and do it in the team. Always follow the basic steps in the research process. So we will now repeat it little huger, like identify, develop your topic, do your preliminary research, locate your materials, evaluate your sources, take notes, write your paper, cite properly, always cite properly, proofread, and submit your final research paper. Using different tools and techniques, we need to know that the tool is not same like a technique. Tool is a device, and technique is a way how we will do some particular task. Now we come to the research design. So what it is, what are the elements, and what types we have at the research design. So we already go through this purpose, through the techniques, through the methodology, through these objections. These are the main elements of research done. After that, we have settings, timeline, measurement, and the analyze. So all these elements of research design we need to know. We need to know this already in the phase of the planning, because without making a design, our work will not be final. So let us see here, what is this research design? It is a framework. It is a framework of all our methods and all techniques what we are choosing to make this study. Then we say here already what type research we will use, what we will do. Will it be a case study? Will it be an experiment? So it depends about the field in which we are choosing. And the 3 main types of design for research are always data collection, so our measurement, what will be the measurement, and the data analysis. We don't need data without data analysis. So this problem always need to be vice versa. Also, sometimes we will come back from the analyzing, as I already say. So what tool, if we choose one tool and it is not good, we will move to another tool. Also, if we see that our technique is not good, we will return back and come and use another technique, because we want to make our research, we want to finish our research, so we need research things, we read research methods which will be suitable for anything what we are doing, and if we want to have a successful research at that result. So main characteristics of research design are: needs to be neutral, it needs to be reliable, validity, and generalization. So somebody will say, how many rules do we have? But it is like good morning when we learn all of these phases, and when we start and when we have the first when we are writing our first research or second, maybe it is very hard. But then you need to have your professor, you need to have your mentor, you need to have your friend who has a lot of experience and who is ready to help you. But you need to have this theoretical knowledge. You need to have the theoretical knowledge to put it in the practice, to put it in the... So today we are planning, doing, and acting. And we need to implement that. So if we don't have a contribution, if we don't give something to society, if we don't get something to our students, to the world, then again we didn't make nothing. So let us see, what is this neutrality? I took this from the internet. Why? Because these definitions are not my definitions, your definitions. They are defined by the author, and all of us are using this same definitions. We can make a paraphrasing of this, but for our purposes it is not necessary. I put the source from where I use and choose this theory. So when you set up your study, you may have to make assumptions, but about the data you accept to collect. And there will be always research bias, and always there will be things that we need to understand. So many different opinions. We will make many evaluations. I know we can conduct and make it before starting, in the time we are doing, not only once, few times. We need maybe our sample. If we have a sample, like example of 500 students, maybe we will not get good results if we are trying to have a sample of 2,000 students. So when our sample is bigger, we have better results. So we cannot do it, for me, when we have little data, that is only a type of simulation that we can do also without using that data. Then what it means, reliability. So reliability means that you will be able to reach the desired results. You have a desire. You start. You have a positive mindset. You are thinking about your mindset, and you are thinking about your mindset that you want not to have a fixed mindset. We want to have a growth mindset, and that is the way, like here, we want to have reliability. So we want to have correct research questions. We want to have questions which will get us the results. If we cannot ensure the results, and if we don't agree with the result, so then we are again vice versa, coming again and putting the new question. What is the validity? The validity means that we are measuring our tools. So this objective, in this research, we will make a questionnaire. So here we have a questionnaire. So neutrality have the research bias, reliability have the questions, validity have the questionnaire, and at generalization we have a sample. A sample I already mentioned, because how can we make this? How can we get the impact? How can we make a design if we don't have a good sample? So we know that so many researchers with the population, with with the gender, with the economy structure like GDP, inflation. So we almost choose where we have a good sample. But if we have a restricted sample, sometimes we want, like in Croatia. Croatia has 22 counties, and if we want to put all that counties together and have the data, we need to pay that. We need to ask for the permission. We have a agency called financial agency, and Croatia Bank also. It is monitoring that, and we need to send a mail, and we need to pay to use the data and use their sample. So let us learn how to make our design better. Today, very, very popular. So what our Steve Jobs say, today we are making mistake. If we don't make a mistake, we will never learn. So that is also with the research design. Design thinking has a big and strong correlation with our research design. So that is why I now explain the research design, and I want to also explain this design thinking. So how design is working. So let us make our work do. So what is design thinking? How will we build empathy? How to define the problems? How to make the solution? How to prototype our ideas? And how to test our design solution. So this is very important for today's research, especially in the field of high-end technology or in marketing or anywhere. So we see that all leading brands are using this. Google, Apple, Samsung, and their thinking approach is on this way. So why design thinking today is why design thinking is very important. It is important because of this. You see, we always start with some problem. We need to understand that problem. As I write, coming up with an idea is very easy, but with the right idea, it needs a work. So we have a problem. We have maybe more problems. We need to understand that. Then, if we want to solve our problem, we need to find a solution. So we need to develop possible solution. If we want to make an invention, a patent, something like that today, we know that that is a really good business, and I can say that almost every second day I get a fair nada, will you join us in our patent? Why will I join somebody in the patent and pay if I cannot give my contribution, and if I don't know to make research for that? So that is why we need to understand the problem. We need to develop the solutions, and we're coming to the testing. We have a prototype. So I say this pencil is my prototype. I will test it. I will try to see, is it right? But if it's not right, I need to refine it, and I need to make a new. So after this refining, then I can go in the implementation. So this is design thinking. This is what you think you know, and you always start from this type of the thinking. So this is with our research also. With our research important. So talking about this, this is a lapsus, not this deep thinking, this design thinking. Sorry. So innovation and design thinking are not the same things. Also, the patent and innovation is also not the same thing. So innovation is always when we have a definition. If we define something, product, service, or business, design thinking is offering this innovation and helping us to make the solutions. We need to differentiate and know that we have always solution-based and problem-based thinking. So what it is, I will show it through through the example of Professor Brian Lawson. He was a professor of architecture at the University of Sheffield, and he explained this for me on the best way. He said that it is not same. We can have a group of designers and group of science. So here, one side, group of designers, another side, a group of the science. And we have the same problem. How the science is looking in this? We know science is different thinking. He is trying to put this. He has so many ideas. He has so many solutions. He's trying to put his designs in different combinations. So this pencil can be blue and white. And then if I think it is not blue and white, let me put it whole blue. So this is something that we want, that they are searching, they are researching, they are always something researching. But the designer, he selected this pencil like this and he colored it. It is this. So for him, for a designer, if he find a design, he's accepting it. So this pencil blue color is something that I discover and I will use this. So that is also a task. I will never make the same thing like my colleague. We always think different. So I can think like a science, I can think like an educator, I can think like a designer. He or she is thinking on a different way. But we need a collaboration, we need a communication, because we need to solve a problem. So always have our research here. We always need to identify the problem, define the problem, make our brainstorm session. Today, we have a decision. Us for writing a new book. We want to give a book. We want to give to our book a title. Leah says this, Lara said this, Luca said this. So everybody has his opinion. And then we are choosing the best one. So that is also with the prototype. That is with our model. We need to make sketches. We are making drawings. So always put it, always make a sketch or drawing before you start doing something and wanting to implement it. So I explained these principles of design thinking. Always have a human rule, the ambiguity rule. What means ambiguity? It is something that is not inventable. So we can limit the knowledge. Experiment can limit our knowledge if we don't know to make the experiment. So make a redesign. We make a design, but we need to sometimes make a redesign. So let us think. Let us try to change our way of thinking. So if we don't change the way of our thinking, we cannot follow all this today, what is happening around us. Big changes, rapidly changes, and we need to change ourselves. So I say this: design may be redesigned, ambiguity needs to be inventable, context, design activity. So I have one view, but sometimes I need to move from that view, and we need to practice. We are not ideal. So design thinking is giving us a lot of things. So that is why he's today very popular and very effective. So his stages are important to understand for everything today what we are doing. Any work. So it asks, is it only for designers? It is not only for designers. You don't need to be a designer. You can be a freelancer, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a leader, you can be anything. But this approach is giving you always, and you are solving your problems on this way. Here, this is phase 5. When I see first time these phases, I see emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And I almost say, what is this? Something is missing. Something is missing. And yes, something is missing. And that is the implementation. So if we don't, and if we cannot implement, we cannot We don't need all this space. So somebody come to this. We researchers always have the needs. We always try to solve our problem. When we are starting with our title, with our work, we start with the abstract. We know that we are starting with the abstract. After the abstract, we are making the introduction. So empathy is very crucial. Empathy we need. Then define. Everything needs to be defined. If I want to use something, first I need to define that and get the definition. Maybe if I don't have my definition, I need to cite somebody's definition who already defined that. Ideate. What is ideate? We can't think only on one way. Today, we need to think outside the box. Outside the box, and I can say that these generations, these students now, they are really thinking outside the box, and many educators have problems with this because they cannot move from they see, some only see one thing, but we have so many alternative ways we can solve the problems on different ways. So let us think, let us try to think to use it and try thinking about outside our box. Then we can make a prototype. We can make a prototype. Something like, example, our research can first be a prototype. It is an experiment. We write something and then we are trying to see, are on the way, did we do that? If not, we are testing that, especially if we are doing something in technique, some kind of devices, Internet of Things. If we use Internet of Things, different devices. Now, if I want to do something with my mobile, so this results, this needs to be, and we need the stages and we need to test. And this is the real way how we need to do. Here, this group say we need to understand, but we're starting from this inspiration, ideation, and implementation. This is the main. What it means, inspiration. Inspiration will have this understanding and will use the two phases, empathize and define. If we want this ideation, that means that we are exploring. We are exploring, and this is really exploring. Our ideate and prototype is part of the exploring. And when we come on the implementation, we have something, we have a product, we have something that we can materialize that, and that means the testing and implementing. So this is a diagram which we need to adapt it, and it is called design thinking on 101 ways. So it is really that thinking outside the box, having so many solutions, putting the right questions, giving the right answers. So this is the thing what we need. And then we have the benefits. We have the benefits, and today we all live from the money. We all live from the money. We want to have, you see, getting successful products to market, you can have cost savings and get a great ROI. We want return on our investment. We are in the sector, we are in the field of education. I always say that the knowledge is our biggest capital. And if we want, calling that return on our knowledge, return on the investment, when we have return on the knowledge, we will have this return on the invest, because we will have courage and we will move and we will go in some type of business. You see, all are writing books. We are writing books because we want to sell our books. So that is already a return on the investment. Yes, and we want our book to be indexed in the Scopus somewhere, and this, it has a higher value. So that is when we bring something, when we give our knowledge and we invest our knowledge in something, and then we are getting the profit. So here is that if you want to learn more about design thinking, big impact on everything what we are doing today. I will show only one example here. Design thinking methodology in action of case studies. What is for us all the most important thing? The most important thing for all of us is our health. Isn't it sad that we are going to a hospital where we don't have a place where we can sit, where we see that everything is dirty, that we are scared. The children, the little children are scared to step in that hospital. So design thinking gives you so many solutions, and this is a real example. The hospital, Rotterdam Eye Hospital, make a transformation, and by and using this, the patients are coming in this type of environment. So no depressing places, no dirty hospitals, no impersonal waiting rooms. So how can we recover this? How can we do this? And this is what I'm saying to you. You today are writing an article, like example, about this topic. You need to have the arguments. You need to find something. So this is the hospital in Rotterdam. Maybe you have something nearby you. So we can have different solutions, and when somebody say yes, everything is chosen, yes, but I'm still sure that we can find something that we can emphasize, define, ideate, make a prototype, test, and then we can have some type of new product. So I will not explain this. I already explained this. So this is something like I put like a quiz. It's best to have a clear idea of the kind of new project or service that you want to provide before you start conducting some researches. Producing prototypes like a part of design thinking, discarding difficult ideas, doing this, flattening in the testing stage, being a creative thinker. So you see, this is the aim of all of us. We want to produce this type of prototypes. We want them to be cheap. We want them to be simple. We want them to know how to explain this. So if it works, we make this. So we are creative, and life is really like a story, and design thinking is a mindset. So we need to change our mindset. We need to change our mindset to think throughout the box, and then we will be experts in everything. We will be expert in everything. So this was my presentation for today. I can maybe say, did I stop it sharing? Okay, that is there. Okay, we can stop it. I can only go shortly and maybe once again repeat about our main topic. So, can we imagine our research without a plan? We cannot. When we today are discussing some type of strategy, we need to make a study. We need to have data. We need to evaluate data. We need to talk about the research design. So, what is research design? What are the processes? What are the elements? What are the types which we are using? Qualitative, quantitative. So it is a framework. It is a framework which is using different research methods and techniques. We are creating many things. We want to make new research. We are collecting the data. We are making the measurement. We have the data analysis. I say it is a vice versa. So that is a process of research design. So always have the aim. Always consider your aims and approaches. Always try to choose a research design. Try to make it. Will it be experimental? Will it be correlational? Is it a survey? Is it a case study? So then find your sampling method. Try to find your sampling method. Do you need a bigger sample, smaller sample? How will you uh, how will you uh, how will you choose and how will you collect your methods? Plan everything, plan your procedures, plan things, write everything, notice everything. Today, if you cannot have an answer, tomorrow you will have, because our research design always have different elements, and that are techniques, that are methods, that are types of research, that are the settings. Be in the frame of your timeline. Be in the timeline. Don't move from the time. Today you decide you are working whole day and you have free time only tonight, like example at 10 o'clock at night. So use that timeline, do it and make it under work, and think about neutrality, reliability, validity, and generalization. We cannot have an outcome without making a generalization, using different types, learning about that, using qualitative research, quantitative research. So what can we there say? Will it be descriptive? Will it be diagnostic? Will we have the issue? Will we have the objectives? Will we improve the communication? My conclusion today is for this. Uh, for all us researchers, we have different solutions, but we are all looking the way how to conduct our research. So we need user-friendly techniques. We need user-friendly knowledge. We need to collect and analyze our data. We need to have different. We have to integrate our results and use the design thinking. So that is the research thing. That is what the research is providing to us, and we need to bring this. We need to have the results, and only on this way we can do that, and we can be happy. And I'm sure that today our students, I hope that I give little inspiration and motivation, because during my work I also say that so many times I come to the problem and today I didn't solve it, but tomorrow, after 1 day, after 2 days, be sure that you will always have a solution. If you don't have a solution, ask your colleague, ask your professor, try to find advice, because maybe the smartest decision is not what you are thinking. So thank you. Thank you so much. And Professor Nada can talk whole day, so please stop me. Harshita, please stop me.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this thorough and enlightening session. This was really helpful for us research scholars. Thank you so much, ma'am. The meeting is open for questions. Please put up your questions if anybody has them.
I'm so sorry for our technical issues, but at the end we handle it. So I
Yes.
now we know that now we know what need to do.
Any questions for Professor Nada?
I think that they get a headache from Professor Nada.
No, ma'am. That's not true.
I'm kidding. You know what I say to my students when I ask any questions and then they don't ask, and then I say, bravo, you understand all, and then again I said, bravo, you don't understand nothing.
We have a
So,
question from Padma.
Hemant, am I audible?
Yeah,
yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a very wonderful presentation. So my question is that we have different methodologies for different kinds of research. So how do we go about choosing the kind of research methodology for our particular research design? So how to make that complex decision?
Yeah, it is. Yes, that is really a big question, and how to decide. You know what is feeling us, because before we start any research, I'm sure that you contact the literature. Did you see what other authors suggest for your problem?
Literature review, ma'am.
Did you contact a literature, or try to find a research which is similar to you? Maybe somebody already make it, so it can help you to bring a decision. Because, like example, if we are not if and that is the part of the knowledge. You are starting to do something, and I'm sure that you know already what will you choose, and there is not a good solution or not a good solution. Maybe sometimes we're thinking that we need to choose this method, but the method is not this is not a good solution. So we need to start. So when we start something, when you start and when you choose method, you will see during the work, did you choose a correct method? Because we never know, did we choose the correct method? But according to the fields, according to the problems, like example in engineering or somewhere. So I make once I make once one qualitative research about the blockchain, about the safety in the homes. I already didn't know which method will I use. Will I go and make will I make a quantitative research or qualitative? And then I see that I didn't have enough knowledge to start collecting the data, because I didn't know which data I need. So that is the thing that you, like a research scholar, you need all your decisions before you decide. You need to contact your mentor, your professor, talk with not only one, more, because more opinions, more solutions, you can decide. You cannot decide it and be sure that you choose a correct. So you see, that is what don't be encouraged. Try with one method you think that is the best for your research. If you see it is not, change the method, change the tools, change the technique.
Thank you, ma'am. You mean, can I go about reading different papers to find a suitable methodology for my design? So is this one way of looking for methodologies?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Contacting other literature, reading and trying. You know, I also always, before start something, you have your idea, you want to start. I always go and try to find to see who do this, what did he make, on which way did he do that. So that is a question you are giving to yourself before. That is a part of planning. That is plan. After plan is coming the do. So the plan is the biggest part, and the hardest part. But I'm sure, Padma, that you are a very smart student and you will make it great.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
And I will write here and see one day and try to find what Padma Lama do.
Thank you. Thank you. so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Ma'am, we
Hello.
have another
Madam,
question from
Good
Kishan.
evening, madam.
Yeah.
Hello.
Good evening.
Madam, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good
Madam,
evening.
could you please guide me? How best can I? Could you please guide me? How best can I choose a subject for my research? Hello.
Yes, yes, I
Audible,
hear you.
madam?
Yes, yes,
Hello.
I hear you.
Sure.
I hear you.
I want to know. Fine. Could you understand my question?
Yes, I understand your question that you ask me that can I help you to what to make your research what
Choose
to
topic, research subject
yes, but how
To-
can I
to
yes
undertake thesis.
I need
While
to
choose
know
your thesis topic, madam.
yes. So how can you choose a topic? What are you doing to what is the interest? About what is your research? We don't know nothing. You know the things about what you want to do and what you want to have like the result. So you can only make your title. How can we help you to make a title? How can I help you? Because I don't know what you are doing. Am I right?
Okay.
I don't know. Did
No, I
anybody
mean to
here in
say,
the
when
audience
see,
think
I'm a
how?
fresher.
Can you
No,
interrupt
listen.
me?
How can I help you? Okay,
Fine. Means I just wanted
you
to
are in the
know
pressure.
in what way shall I?
Did you write anything? Did you
No.
write? What are your
What
ideas?
should be my approach while? What should be my approach while choosing a subject for thesis?
Can I interrupt you,
Yeah.
ma'am? I think what we
As
have
such, I
tried our
have
is
written
the
teaching
process to
English.
reach.
I want to do a research on a topic, but hello, madam.
Oh, but what will you research in
Hello.
your research in your article? What will be the main?
Actually,
What are the main
my
things that you
confusion.
are doing in your article? I think that is a question that
Hello.
I don't know how to help you for that question because I don't know what will you do here. I know when I say I need to research, I have a field of what is the field of your interest? Teaching, English teaching. That is a huge thing. So content, what is it there in that teaching? About what?
That is my confusion also. Teaching English,
Listen.
I would like to perform it also.
No, but how?
That's there.
Listen. I think that there is no person who can help you and tell what will you do. You can choose a part, grammar, vocabulary. I don't know one part what you are researching. How can we? You say you want English teaching. That is like I say. That is the same. I say my topic for my research will be India. So what will I do in India? India. I write India.
This is how a rough idea I have.
Listen, Sir Kishan, that is the same thing like you say to us today. English teaching. We don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Choose something.
That's what. No,
is
my
your- what is
confusion
your
was also the same.
What is your interest from that English teaching? What you want to do? Something from English teaching? What? Here, like
It's a
example,
very vague idea, Bhavina.
Dr. Vasudeva and Dr. Regin has always so many conferences and so many English teachers are here and they always have some subjects. So you can see what they are researching, what are they doing. Like example, I was also here and I was making, I think, English in vocational subjects. So I go only on vocational studies and using English for that. So you need to choose something from that, something you want to research.
Okay, ma'am, I think your point is quite
Dr. Karshita, Dr. Kanul, what do you say on this?
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank
Hello,
you.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. I think perfectly whatever you said, the feedback which you have given to the
Enough
query
time
which
you have given.
Mr. Kishan had is perfectly fine, because subject area is something which is to be decided by the researcher himself.
Yes.
Yeah,
the
we can
researcher
help the researcher to
decide.
delimit the research, or narrow
Yes.
down the subject area, but we cannot help somebody in
Yes.
finding out what he or she should research on.
Yes,
So
because
certainly,
we don't know the interest. What somebody, that is that somebody say me to do something, but I don't know. I don't know nothing about that, like example. We need to have our interests first, and then we are like Padma is doing her research.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Sir Kishan, the next time when I come here, I want to hear what is your research
Sure,
about.
ma'am. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really honored. So sorry, Sir Kishan, that I cannot help you, but really don't. I can't. I will think. You know what? I need to go through all the English teaching and see what you can research. Ha.
Okay, ma'am, we have another speaker with us.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your attention and for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me introduce our second speaker for today, Dr. Antralina Basu. Ma'am is currently an assistant professor at the School of Liberal Arts and Humanities at Woxin University, India. She also functions as the co-chairperson of the Center of Excellence, Literature Studies, and holds the David Scott Kastan Chair Professorship of English Literature. Ma'am is teaching critical thinking, reading and writing, and analytical appreciation of language at Woxin University right now. Today, ma'am will enlighten us on writing research article, deliberations on the process. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Harshita. May I share my screen?
Yeah.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. So thank you and good evening, everyone. I know it's a bit late, but I want to extend my gratitude and thanks to Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, as well as Cape Comorin Trust. So I'll be talking about writing research article deliberations on the process today. So just to create the scenario, think about the academic landscape that we are placed on today, and where we are constantly asked to publish, because if we do not publish rigorously, we tend to perish. So there is this constant anxiety, and it's not only India specific, it's everywhere, it's across the world. And there is this urgency to not only publish in terms of quality, but also in terms of quantity. So that there was this notion that, okay, you publish 2 good articles, Scopus Index articles a year, but today it's about 10 good enough, not excellent. So there is this anxiety, and if we do not publish, if we do not write rigorously and in terms of quality as well as quantity, we tend to almost perish within academia. So just to tell you, you must be already familiar that when we start with the idea of writing a paper and to actually move to publishing the manuscript, it's a trajectory that is not always linear, and it comprises of many steps. So the actual process of converting a research idea into publication and the stages in this process is extremely complex, subject to a variety of challenges, but ultimately rewarding. And if we were to make this experience really beneficial for us and really interesting, we have to go step by step. So basically, my talk will map out the journey from idea formulation towards the publication process. So this will give you a bird's eye view of the talk that I'm going to deliver today. I'm going to start with literature review and discuss a bit on evaluation of research. Then how do we select article type and determining the authors? Moving on to selecting a journal. Then points to consider while selecting a journal. Then creating an outline of the paper, writing the first draft, and finally submitting the manuscript. So there are 3 steps, right? Even before we write an article, which is arguably the 3rd step, there is this literature review. For instance, one of the questionnaires was asking that, what do I work on? This has to be your research interest. And for this, you need to engage in literature review. And once you have engaged in literature review, you evaluate your research data, and then you write the article. So before I move on to the second 2 part, I will talk about literature review a bit. So what is literature review? It's basically a study of all the existing literature that is available in the area. For instance, you want to work on gender and literature, and you search for relevant literature in that area, and you start evaluating writers, say writer A, writer B, writer C, and you do your academic research as well. You read a lot of research articles, and you understand that though feminism and literature, say in the context of North India, has been talked about, but transgender literature has not been talked about. So the experiences of transgender people and its representation literature has not actually been talked about or explored. And this is the gap of your research. And you can arrive at this gap only when you have done a thorough literature review. So having known that this is the gap and you can take this forward through your research, you start outlining the structure, how you will do it, what will be your primary text, what would be your supporting secondary text, and also the ones who challenge texts that challenge your postulations. And with this knowledge, you finally write your literature review. So there are a few questions that you can consider when you engage in literature review. For instance, what were the aims and objectives mentioned in the body of literature? So when you're doing a literature review, it's important to consider what were the aims and objectives of the paper that you're reading. And does it align with you, or does it contradict your idea? Second question, what approaches, schools of thought, theories, methods, strategies were used? So when you're reading the paper, when you're reviewing the literature, it's important that you ask these questions. From which position is the author writing this paper? What are the schools of thought that he's delving in? What are the theories that he's referring to? And this will give you an idea as to how he has approached the research area, the paper that you're reading. Third point, in what context were the research publications conducted? So you must see that what was the context of the research? Who were the funding bodies? Because often funding bodies of research tend to influence the research. So you must see the context of the research. When was it published? Where was it published? And what was the what were the funding bodies as well, if there were any. Fourth point, what were the outcomes of the publication? Now, when you're doing your literature review, you have to scrutinize the papers and see what were the outcomes, what were the results of the publication, what were the findings that has been established, and what were the findings that you would probably like to contradict or you would probably like to build on. It depends on you and your literature review. And followed by what is each publication's contribution to the field. So when you're doing a literature review, you have been reading a bit many papers and you have to slot, okay, what was this particular paper's contribution to the field, and where do I get to add to this knowledge, to the existing knowledge? What gaps, problems are evident? So when you're doing a literature review, it's important to ask, what are the gaps, problems are evident? So you found that, okay, transgender experiences have not been, explored. So even in transgender experiences, if there are 7 writers, maybe 2 writers have been talked about regularly, but not the rest, writers who are just beginning or who are not that well known. So that's a gap, and you try to focus your research on talking about those writers or those texts that have not been discussed on or explored significantly. And finally, do publications relate to my own research? So this is very important, because while you're doing your research review, you're probably reading 50 articles, 10 books, and you're trying to find out what actually aligns with your research or contradicts your research, and how you could probably use those certain papers, refer to those certain papers in your writing. So you have to do publications. You have to read this question: do publications relate to my own research? Now, once you have done the literature review, when we were talking about the trajectory, we talked about literature review, which is again followed by evaluation of research data. So what many students do, or early career students tend to do, is after literature review, they directly move to writing the article. Well, that is a bit problematic, because if you do not evaluate the research data, chances are you have to come back again, because you might be blinded by your own biases, research biases, and it's best to always evaluate the research data after you have done your literature review. So how do you evaluate your literature review and the data that you intend to write the paper with? So best option that I always think helps is taking the suggestion of your supervisor, approaching your supervisor and asking if he can contribute, if he can give his feedback on your research data, on your literature data. And secondly is also, try to understand your own evaluate your own research through a trajectory of questions, by asking a few questions to yourself. For instance, have you done or found something new, unique, and interesting? Because if your research is only going to discuss what has already been established, then it's not adding something new, and then it's not actually research, it's a review. So what you have to ask yourself while you're researching is, have you done or found something new, unique, and interesting? Second point, is the work directly related to a current topic? Now, this is often debatable, because the question is, why only a current topic? Why not work on a text that has been published long ago? Maybe it's not in vogue, but it's important nonetheless. Well, of course, you can go ahead with that. The reason you're often asked to work on a current topic is that you tend to be more visible in academia. For instance, if today you work on gender studies, you tend to be more visible in academia, and or for that matter, trauma studies, and people get to know about what you're doing. You tend to thinking from a very, very utilitarian perspective. You tend to get more citations, and this is why they suggest you to work on current and relevant topics. Third point, Have you checked the latest result or research in the field? This is a very important field. So for instance, you are doing your literature review and you're reading a book that has been written in 1950s. Very well, but make sure you're also reading an article or a book that has been written in 2023. In that case, so what happens is that if you do this, your research becomes relevant, actually relevant, because when work was done in, say, 1950s, your research, they had a particular, that was very limited, and a long time has passed. And it's important to update your research. Otherwise, your research will tend to be redundant. So it's very important that you refer to the latest research in your field. Fourth point, have you provided solutions to any difficult problems? Very important. Often when we are writing paper, we often tend to question the postulations that have been put forward in the paper, but we do not provide solutions, and that is not ideally research. Research, of course, raises issues, raises problems with existing data, but it should also at least attempt to provide solutions to any difficult problems. So make sure when you're doing your research that you're also trying to figure out solutions to those problems. Fifth point, are your findings clear and comprehensive? So you've done your literature review and you have got your first-hand data, but you have to find it has to be very clear and comprehensive. If your findings are not clear and comprehensive, and you're not being able to understand or find it coherent, you're not finding it coherent yourself, it's indication that you must revisit your research area, do a literature review again, think about it again, and then come back, because unless your findings are clear and comprehensive, chances are your paper will never be published. So if the answers to all these relevant questions are yes, move to writing an article. So we talked about literature review and then evaluation of your research, and it is only once that you have evaluated the research that you move to writing the research article. So why? I just wanted to give you a contemporary example for that matter. So think about what happens when you fail to evaluate your research. So think about the movie Adipurush and think about the flack it drew. So of course the directors and the producers have done research on the film. They have probably they wanted to create an adaptation, a kind of adaptation of Ramayana. Of course they have done research in that regard, but have they really done consumer research? They haven't, and this is why there was so much backlash from the citizens of India, and there were criticisms like part Planet of the Apes, part King Kong. Then critics called Prabhas Starrer an epic disappointment. So this is what happens when you do not do do not engage in a holistic evaluation of your research. So moving on to the next this is just a reiteration of what I was saying, that it is not good enough to challenge dominant theories without offering alternative theoretical approaches. Do not speculate, provide evidence. So as I was already mentioning, that we tend to stop after challenging an existing theory or raising questions with an established idea, but that is not enough. We have to provide provide alternative theoretical approaches as well as provide evidence, because ultimately it's about creating not new knowledge and not just reiterating what has already been established. So first step of article writing is choosing the article type. So we need to first decide as to what type of article we would be writing. So if your article is original research paper, which will involve empirical research, qualitative or quantitative research, then it would be an original research paper. You would categorize it as an original research paper and go ahead with it. Second point is that if suppose a book has been published and you want to review it, then it would be a review paper. Often you publish book reviews in index journals. So when your book is basically when your research is basically a review of a particular book, your comments, your understanding and your observations, then it's a book review. Third, moving on to the third part, is letter, commentary, or reply. So often you write articles that are basically letters on a particular theory, or letters on something, a contemporary argument that has been going on in your domain, or a reply to someone who has a reply to an article maybe. So someone has published an article and you kind of second it, so you write a reply article. That is one category. And finally, interview paper. This happens a lot in literary studies, as you know. So, writer publishes a book, you interview the writer, and then you can publish your article as an interview paper. Now, once you have decided on the article type, we will be moving on the authorship. So, who are going to be the authors of your paper? So, if it's a solo paper that you have alone written the paper, then of course no question about that, you're the sole author and that's it. But most of the times, because there is this pressure of publishing rigorously, we are collaborating at an increasing scale, and when there is collaboration, of course the paper tends to be even more better, because two minds are always better than one. But there are these formalities that needs to be maintained. For instance, firstly, what you do is determine the authors. So who are going to be the authors of your paper, and finalize the order of the authors for the paper. So you have to, in the very beginning, you have to choose who is going to be the first author, who's going to be the second author, and who's going to be the third author, depending on the contribution made by each of the author. And it should not be based on favoritism at all. So it should always be based on what and how much is an author contributing. For instance, if you're contributing, if you're writing 60% of the paper, then you are definitely the first author. If somebody is contributing 30, then he is the second author, and 10%, he is the third author. So make sure you decide it in the very beginning, so that confusions are avoided later on. You do not want to lose a friend in the process of writing a paper. You do not want to, you need to have clarity in the very beginning, and it really helps that way. Clarify, state clearly what should be the contribution of each of the author. Now, this is also important, because it's important to know how each of the authors will be contributing to the paper, which part will be handled by each author. And these discussions should be had even before you start writing the paper. Moving on to selecting a journal. So journal selection is a very integral part and significant part. I do not need to stress this. You already know that the right journal will kind of make your paper, whereas the wrong journal will break your paper. So make sure that when you're selecting a journal, you give a lot of time. We know that it's a very, very tedious process, because it's unlikely that all the parameters that you're looking for, you'll be getting it very easily. Suppose you have a 7,000 word article, and the journal that aligns with your, aligns with your research domain wants a 10,000 word article. So again, there is this pressure to increase the length of your article. Similarly, vice versa, you have 5,000 word article and the journal wants 7,000, a word article. So these things always keep happening. So you need to, sometimes you find a journal, but its ideas its objectives and aims does not align with the objectives and aims of your paper. And that would be, wise not to publish your paper in a journal whose aims and objectives does not align with your paper. So it's very important that you give a lot of time in picking your journal, and please make sure that it's indexed and open access. Index journals are those journals that are widely recognized. For instance, Scopus index journals, ABDC journals. So when you publish your paper in index journals, chances are your paper will derive or be cited and will be held as an authentic source of information. That is why, if you publish in journals that are not indexed, chances are you won't get citations, and your credibility as a researcher will not increase. So make sure you publish in indexed and open access journals. Excuse me. So manuscripts must be peer reviewed and preferably double blind peer reviewed for publication. So any good journal, talk about Taylor and Francis or Sage, these are all double blind peer reviewed journals. So this helps because it helps avoid any bias. Nobody knows who is the author is. Only the paper is selected on the basis of the merit it holds, the contribution it holds. So it's always best to go for a double blind peer reviewed journal, because if your article has merit, it will definitely get selected then. Now, points to consider, just pointers to consider while selecting your journal. So, language of the journal. Now, what do I mean by it? Suppose you are publishing your article. Suppose your article that you're publishing is on French literature and gender. So, if you publish in an article, a journal that also is printed in French as well as in English, it will help you get visibility in an area where you actually want to be noted. So rather than just publishing your article in an English journal, which of course will definitely draw merit, it is always wise. It's even better to publish in a journal which is also published in French, which also publishes French, works on French literature, or research articles on French literature in French. So that will give you more visibility. Focus area of the journal. So again, as I already mentioned, your article's focus area should align with the focus area of the journal in which you intend to publish. This increases your chances of, the chances of your article being selected for publication. Thirdly, as I already mentioned, indexing is important. Fourthly, availability of the journal. This is very important because there are journals that are not published online. So think about, in literature, think about a journal like Sahitya Akademi. It's not published online. It's only a hard copy. It's a physical copy that's published. What happens in this case, though it's very renowned, what happens in this case is that not a lot of readers are able to reach your article, even if it aligns with their area of interest, even if it's something they want to read, they're not able to reach your article. And what happens in this case is that your article doesn't get the visibility it needs, you do not get citations, and you do not grow as a researcher. So remember that you always preferably publish in open access journals. Your article will be available for free to all in that case, but you must make sure that your article is available online so that at least anybody needs your article, even if it's behind a paywall. If it's available online, someone can purchase the article and be benefited by reading it. Fifth point, reputation of the journal. This is important as well. Reputation of a journal is very important. If the journal you are targeting is known for being biased, publishing, resorting to favoritism, chances are your article will not be looked up upon. So in the sense that your article will not get the credibility that it deserves. So it's always good to publish with reputed journals. We already know that Taylor and Francis Sage are extremely reputed, at least in terms of humanities. So it's best to go ahead with journals which have a reputation of being integral, of being true to the research field and area, and of not resorting to biases. Format recommendation of the journal. This is again very important. Look into the format when you submit your article. Look into the format that is expected to be given. How do you format your research article to be published in that particular journal? Check that. Figures as well. So make sure that where you're publishing, are you allowed to publish figures or images in that journal? And finally, charges applicable. So this is something that you must also take note. Very, very incredible, trusted, academic journals like, say, Routledge and Sage do not actually keep a charge. Even if the charge is there, it's very nominal and it's for editing. But there are certain Scopus Index journal as well, which will ask a fee of about 1 lakh for publishing a paper. It's always better to avoid publishing in those journals, and often a lot of people cannot afford as well to publish in those journals. It's better to stay away from those journals just to be safe. Steps after selecting the journal. So once you have selected the journal, it's important that you read the specific journal instructions for authors. Whatever instructions that have been laid out for the authors, you must follow, because that will increase the chances for your article to be accepted. Secondly, read a few articles from the journal so as to get an idea of the kind of article you need to write. This is also very important, because you might be asked, it's always better to read a few articles from the very journal where you intend to publish. You know what kind of article is being published. You know what kind of work is expected if you intend to publish in that journal. So that familiarization really helps. And formatting your article as per the instructions is again very important. As I've already mentioned, that showcases that you have actually followed the instructions and done and formatted the article as was expected from you. This is just an example. I picked up this journal. It's the Taylor and Francis journal. You can see the journal title is Journal of Graphic Novels and Comics, and you can go down and see that green bar. Go to submission site, and below the submission site, you can see submission information, below which you see instruction for authors. So this is something that you always read when you're submitting your article to the particular journal. You are also suggested to read about the editorial policies, and you must also look into the instruction for authors that has been given to you. Now, once you have done all this, this is where you come and start writing your paper. So this is going to be a first draft. This is not your final draft after all. And this is going to be the rough outline of your paper. You write the title, abstract keywords, followed by introduction, aims, methods, results, findings, discussion on findings, scope of future research, and conclusion. And which is again followed by acknowledgement, ethical statement, and references. And I will be delving a bit on this, on creating an outline of your paper. We'll start with the title. So often we tend to think that titles are, it's something that we can come up with easily. But good articles give a lot of thought to the title, because it is through the title that you make the first impression on the reader. And it is also your chance to attract the attention of the editor or reader. Your title should hold the specific information. It should inform what your paper is about. This is a must. The title should be very informative. It should actually tell exactly what you're going to do in the research paper, but in one line, or maximum you can have a title and a subtitle. One important point is that titles should be concise. This should not be too lengthy. I have seen articles sent to me when we review articles, 3 or 4 lines of title. Well, it does not really work that way. So you have to have a concise title. Second last point is avoid jargons and abbreviations. So often what students do is they tend to include jargons. Jargons are complex terminologies, domain-specific terminologies in the title. It is suggested that you do not do that in the very title. You can do it in the abstract. You can do it in the introduction, but not so much in the title. Keep the title short and concise and comprehensible. That way your article is read widely and your article is not rejected as being incomprehensible. Your title can also have 2 parts, the title and the subtitle. For instance, I just gave you an example here. Representation of history in the Indian graphic novel, and then you can have a subtitle as an analytical study of history through the frame of graphic narratives. So give some thought when you're writing the title. Give some thought to the title that you are giving to your paper. Keywords. Another important element, because keywords are a very essential part of journal article. So when writing a journal article, you must select keywords that you would like your article to rank for. Now, what does it mean? So what happens is when you write the keywords of your article, your article immediately gets notified with regard to those keywords. So when a prospective reader, for that matter, when someone say wants to read an article in the same domain, search with those certain keywords, immediately your article will become visible. So it's very important that you give the right keywords for attracting or for getting the right reader, for helping your article be read by the right reader. And keywords help potential readers to discover your article when conducting research using search engines. So as I've already mentioned this, you can have a look at the example beside that. This article is on tumor necrosis factor signaling in macrophages, and if you read the keywords, it talks about disease, inflammation, macrophage, arteritis. Even though I have no understanding of this domain, I know that, okay, this article is going to talk about inflammation, is going to talk about arteritis, is going to talk about macrophage. So this way, what happens is we get to know exactly, even without reading the article, because often we do not have the time, that this article comprises of these topics and these subtopics. Now the abstract. So a abstract, as we already know, is basically the summary of the research paper. And the purpose of your abstract is to express the key points of your research clearly and concisely. I'm sure you must have written abstracts. You've sent abstract for conferences as well as journal articles. And it is only on the basis of your abstract you get an opportunity to present your paper or publish your paper. So this is, as you know, is very important. And often you're given a word limit. Sometimes it's 250, sometimes it's 300, and sometimes it can go up to 600. Ordinarily, an abstract will be comprised of what your research is about, what methods have been used, and what are your main findings. So basically, it's a summary of your paper, but in 300 words. So make sure you write a very concise, comprehensible, clear, and informative abstract. Getting the focus right is basically asking you to focus. Do not, while you're writing your research article, make sure you're focused on that particular area which you intend to work on. Do not scatter yourself, because that way the research will not be published in that sense or accepted. Please be focused while you're doing your research. Introduction of your article. With this, we come to the introduction of the article. What the introduction does is it introduces the reader to your paper. It's basically, again, the first impression in terms of reading the paper. What it does is it situates and contextualizes your argument. So it's very important that you basically talk about your research in this first paragraph. You talk about what is the rationale behind conducting this research, what are your aims and objectives, and also a brief about the literature review as such. Now with this we come to the main body. So in the main body, you need to explore these questions. What is that you intend to explore in this paper? What methods have you adhered to? Is it qualitative research or is it a quantitative research? What is the data? What are the data that you've analyzed, and what are the findings of your research? So after analyzing the data, what are your findings, and how can future researchers take your research forward? So what is the scope of future research? So in terms of the main body, you have the aims. You have to talk about what you intend to do in this paper, in this article. You have to talk about the methods, as Dr. Nada had already talked about. You have to talk about what are the methodology you have resorted to, and it should align, or you should also give a brief elaboration on why you chose to resort to that particular methodology. And you should talk about your data, not only just project your data, but also have a discussion on the findings, on what, sorry for that spelling error out there, research and findings, it's findings. So you also have to talk about the findings of your research, to discuss on it. And with this, you can talk about the scope for future research, like how can future researchers take this forward? And with this, you can conclude your paper. And this is the last section. It should basically be an interpretation of the results. So whatever you have talked about in the introduction and specifically in the body, you should wrap up, basically tie all the loose strings and be done with the paper. You should summarize the paper in brief, like what you've done and what you have been able to do. But if you have limitations to your research, which I'm sure in most cases we always have one or two limitations, it's important to outline the limitations as well, and so that rather than someone else pointing it out to you, talk about things, the limitation of your paper and how you intend to probably overcome the limitation in your upcoming researches. And finally, make sure that you do not introduce new concepts in this section, because this tie up the loose strings. It's not to introduce new concepts, because you don't want your reader to again delve into a different idea altogether. You need to just give a good closure to your article in the conclusion. With this, we come to the acknowledgement. So this is basically a space where you acknowledge the individuals who do not qualify for co-authorship, but has contributed to the article intellectually, or for that matter, financially. So you often have friends or colleagues or professors who have helped you, though they have not helped you enough to mention them as a co-author, but they have, for instance, provided you a book that you were not able to get hold of. Maybe they helped you get access to an article that you did not have access to. So where do you acknowledge these people who helped you write the article in one way or the other? So you acknowledge them in this section, in this acknowledgement section, which immediately follows the conclusions section. And what it does is it builds integrity and trust, because in academia, we tend to know it's a very close-knit family, and we tend to know each other. It's very good to build integrity and trust through this process of acknowledgement. So if you have received help from anyone, it's very important that you mention them in your acknowledgement. References and citations. References is again very important, as you must already know, that it should be well balanced, current and relevant, as I was telling you. If you're referring to some old text, all fine, but make sure you're also referring to the latest research. So technically you should also refer to a work, the research paper in your area, that has been published in 25th July. So that way your research is very, very current, your research is very relevant. You should aim to cite references that are not more than 10 years old, if possible, as I've already mentioned. And finally, the studies you cite should be strongly related to your research question. Yes, so often, you're often trying to just fill up your citation references. I have often seen students do that. It's not a wise idea. Do not use references that do not actually contribute to your article. So for that, you have to do an extensive reading, extensive reading, and then, list out your references. Plagiarism is a topic that I have, that I'm sure you're already aware of. Anything. Well, so what consists of plagiarism? If you are going to quote any author, if you're going to cite, if you fail to cite any sources, your work will be considered as plagiarized, as a copy, or as having wrongfully taken someone else's research and place it as your own. So understand that all published and unpublished material, whether in manuscript, printed, or electronic form, is covered under this definition. So it's very important that you cite your sources carefully, and cite all your references, like all the texts that you have referred in your article. All of these texts should be properly cited in the reference section. Figures and images. So often you might have figures and images in your research paper. And if you're using figures, it's important that you format the figure as per the requirements of the journal. Whereas if you're using images from external source, for instance, you are, say, using an image from a book or from a children's literature. If you're working on children's literature, you're using a particular illustration. Make sure you take a written permission from the author or the publisher. It's very, very important. So often you ask for this permission, and then they say that maybe you have to got a verbal, a telephonic permission. But it's always best to have a written permission, so that if you were asked to produce that permission letter, proof of submission, to the editor of your journal, you will be able to furnish it, and it's also very transparent. So there's transparency on both sides in that way. And figures and image should be properly numbered and labeled. This is also very important, that make sure that you're labeling and your figures and images properly. Now, writing the first draft. So do we do it chronologically or chaotically? So at least to my understanding, I think that it's totally up to you. There are a lot of writers, there are a lot of researchers who tend to, work on the main body first, working on the methodology, findings, discussion and findings, and then writing the introduction and conclusion. I personally prefer to go, with chronologically, but it's totally up to you. And if you're collaborating, you may assign different aspects of the article to different authors, which means that if you're, collaborating with your co-authors, different people will have different writing style. So in the end, when all of you have written it, one person, you can probably choose one among you, should try to make the writing very coherent, so that it reads like one article and that one person has written it. It should not be, punctured by different styles of writing, and that way your article will not be cited because it will be incomprehensible. So make sure you, gloss over your article once you all have written it. And from here we can move on to revising the manuscript. So once you have written the first draft, this is a time when you have the first draft at your hand and you start making major alterations. So there could be paragraphs and that does not that are not very coherent. So you brush them up, you polish the style of your writing, you make it more academic. And of course, I need not tell you that you need to also check your grammar and spellings, and also format the document as per the requirements is very important. Students often tend to ignore this. They think, okay, we'll do it once the article is selected for publication. Please do not do that. If you want your article to be published, make sure you format the document as per the requirements of the journal, because that showcases your ethics as a researcher, your commitment as a researcher as well. So submitting the manuscript to the editor, you must follow the instruction to authors, as I've already mentioned. Often there are journals that will ask you to submit a pre-review or a letter indicating the content of the article, so that the editors can determine whether they will accept the manuscript for a full review. So a letter, it's almost like the letter that you send with your job application. So make sure that you send this letter along with your article if it's required. You must also list out possible reviewers. Well, today in most of the times you're not given that option, but if there are, there could be academic rivalry between people, and if there are certain reviewers you would like to avoid, you could mention this to your editor as well. If necessary, contact the editor to be sure that the manuscript was received. Yes, so say they have asked you to wait for 1 month and you've waited your 1 month waiting time. Please write to the editor and you've still not received a reply from the editor. That is the time when you write to the editor and try to get information on the status of your article. I have mentioned in the last point that if after a month you have not received a response concerning the acceptability of a manuscript for publication, you may wish to contact the editor about this too. So it's 1 month for few journals. It's generally 3 to 4 months for Taylor and Francis. So you wait the waiting period, but once 3 months is done, please, there are times you still do not get replies. Make sure you write to the editor and try to get a reply so that you can, you know where to go with your article. If your article is selected, well and good, but if your article is rejected, then you need to again submit to a different journal. So yes, so you need to write to the editor after, if you do not hear from him after the time. Finally, so just a few quick tips. Remember, when you're writing your article, clarity is key. Make sure that you are using very clear language. Avoid jargons unless they are very much required. Try to make it simple, try to make it readable and comprehensible. Thirdly, you may want to write for a global audience to have your research reach the wider readership. Make sure you write in a way that will be understood by any reader, regardless of the field or whether English is their first language. And finally, write your journal article with citations to give your reader certainty in your research. So citations means that you have referred relevant sources. Your references will show that you have looked at the right book, explored the right literature, you've done your literature survey. So it's good that you, cite your references well. So with this, I come to the end of the talk. I would love to take questions if you have. Hello.
Yeah. Any questions?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Jagruti, I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. How many numbers of LR we should put while we are writing the research paper? Any specific number, or we can take?
How many numbers of references are you saying?
Yes, yes, literature review.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that's often a question among young researchers. That's understandable. So it doesn't. The more, the better, and the more it doesn't mean that you refer to any sources. It should be the books that you're citing again should be well written by authors, well acknowledged books. Again, well acknowledged articles published in, say, indexed, peer reviewed and indexed journals. Minimum, if I were to give a number, 30 to 40 would be minimum, but again, that's not at all. I should not be giving a number. If you're working in an area that is very new, probably there will be lesser literature review to be done. But it depends on which area you're working on, and it depends on basically trying to do a wide research and trying to refer to all the relevant sources. So if you think that if you're working on an area that's talked about a lot, probably you will have more than 50 citations. Again, if you're working on an area that is relevant, that is relatively new, then you will have fewer citations. Yes.
Thank you.
Will I answer your question? Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Bengal. Thank you so much for your nice presentation, first of all. And my question was regarding the book review, ma'am. As you mentioned about book review, what will be your tips for the beginners that how to go for a book review? And you mentioned about that it's better to go with the recently published books. But my question is it okay to go with the books which was published 3 to 5 years back or more than this?
That's an interesting question, Shubhu. So of course you can go ahead, go on to review books that have been published earlier. Your review could capture a different perspective, which is not being captured in the earlier reviews. So that's perfectly well to go ahead with it. Now, with regard to book review tips, I would say is generally you will see especially Taylor and Francis, you will have an option to contact the editor and with a mail that, sir, I would like to review a book, and the book will be assigned to you, that which book you want to review, that will be assigned by the editor to you, and you can review the book and then you can submit it to the editor, and if the editor thinks that it's well written, he will definitely publish it. So this isn't one of the options, but if you intend to write a review of a book that you have chosen, then there are other options. There are certain journals that do publish self-chosen reviewed books, but you have to do a bit of research in this regard. Otherwise, what I prefer is to write to the editor, and the editor often says, okay, these are the books that we are thinking that we want reviews of, and that way what happens is you have one is you get to know exactly, you have a book at hand which the review of which is needed in the particular journal. So even if your review is, say, 70% up to the mark, chances are the editor will help you, guide you. The reviewers will guide you, and you can get your book review published. So I prefer it that way. But again, you can also go with choose the book that you intend to review and then publish it. Yeah.